We're now expecting on Monday the White House to release a legislative framework on immigration. What do you need to see there for an immigration bill to get your vote?
Well, I think you're going to see the four things they've talked about before. That's addressing DACA, but also making sure that we have border security and enforce immigration law, as well as addressing chain migration and the visa lottery system.
When we're talking about border security, in your calculation, does that include a border wall as well? Because what the White House is planning to release doesn't necessarily include a physical wall.
I think it will include a physical wall, as well as technology and people to make sure that the border is secure, and at the same time making sure that we enforce our laws that prevent illegal immigration.
So, Senator, we talked to Mark Short, the legislative director for the White House recently, and he said what they needed in terms of security was appropriations, not just approval for a wall. And he didn't specify a number, but I've heard the number as high as $22 billion. Is that what the Senate's going to need on the Republican side to get a deal done here?
I think so. Actually, it's going to be, first off, you're right. It has to be an appropriation, not just an authorization. There have been votes before to authorize building a fence, building a wall, and so forth. So it actually has to be the money, an appropriation, as you said. And then the range is anywhere from $22 billion up to $30 billion when you include money for technology and other things that go to enforcement of immigration law.
This is my question, Senator. How are we actually going to get a deal done here? Because we have those sorts of requirements from the Republicans. Also, we have the chain immigration issue. We have the lottery. We've heard this before, and we didn't get close to a deal before. What's different this time around? Or are we just going to keep having this replay again and again and again?
You know, we have to come up with something that can pass the House, the Senate, and obviously signed by the president. And so I think you're going to have all four of those things in there in order to get the support. And I think it really reflects what the American people want, and that is a solution that makes sure we're not back in this situation in the future.
The Senate Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, complained that striking a deal with the president was like negotiating with Jell-O. Do you at least understand his stance when it comes to the immigration bill and what he wants out of it and what he wants to put to a vote?
He's laid out the four things that I identified, and that is, like I say, border security, including a wall, addressing DACA, but also chain migration and the visa lottery system. Those are really the four principles that they've laid out.
So, Senator, you were a staunch supporter, I think it's fair to say, of the president. You vote with him quite regularly, no question about it. If he came back and said, look, this is what I need, Senator Hoeven, I'm going to get something on the wall. It's not going to be everything you wanted. It's not going to be 22. It's not going to be $33 billion. There's going to be something less than that. I'm going to get something on chain migration, but it's going to sort of define what the family is, and it's going to narrow it some, but not the same. Could you support something like that? Is there room for real compromise on your side?
Well, I think that's what you're seeing is a negotiation to get us to that point where we can get enough agreement to pass it through Congress and have the administration sign it. And so that's why it has to include those elements that we're laying out. And that's what the discussion is how do we get there?
We're stuck on immigration. Then will come the budget talks, a debt ceiling. How do you plan to move forward with GOP priorities such as infrastructure in an election year? Can you do it?
Well, that's the exact right question. We have to dual track this. While we're working on addressing illegal immigration issue, at the same time, we have to get our colleagues across the aisle to agree with us on some caps so that we can finish out the year-end funding that takes us out through September 30th. This is very important for our military. We're working very hard to provide more funding for our military with all that's going on in the world today and all they're doing. And so we've got to dual track this, get those caps, and finish out that year-end funding bill.